There are over 2,640 billionaires around the world and around 47 million millionaires. Of course, some of them were born into rich families and got generational wealth together with the best network and education. Yet, the majority of them are self-made. And the surprising fact is that they use the same tricks to build their wealth. We look carefully into the traits of many billionaires, and today we will reveal 9 of their secrets to earning money and multiplying it. Even if they don't make you a multimillionaire, these tricks will definitely help you build a wealthier life for generations. We often have this image of wealthy people living a glamorous life with luxury cars, mega yachts, private jets, and insane properties. But the reality for many multimillionaires is different, especially at the beginning of their journey. So the first trick millionaires use is to avoid unnecessary spending. There are so many examples of multimillionaires living the most frugal lifestyle you can imagine.
Hi, how are you?
This is Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the US, picking his daily breakfast, a sausage McMuffin with egg and cheese. Besides, the billionaire still lives in the first house he bought in 1958 for $31,500 and drives a 2014 car. Does that sound rich to you? Well, he isn't the only one.
I lived in the Fremont and Nevada factories for 3 years.
Elon Musk, with a net worth of over $180 billion, says that at the beginning of Tesla, he was sleeping on the factory floor to be together with the team and show that he was there for them and not in some ivory tower. Of course, some might say, but Elon now owns a private jet. That doesn't seem so frugal. Sure, but the important thing is that he didn't get into debt to get his jet before he had sufficient income. He made his way to being one of the richest people in the US, and now whatever he spends his money on is his business. Most multimillionaires don't care about their clothes either. We all remember how Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck. Mark Zuckerberg is also very practical about his wardrobe. He believes that small decisions like what you wear or eat can take too much energy and that it could be put to better use.
It kind of sounds silly to, all right, that's my reason for wearing a gray t-shirt every day. It also is true.
So if millionaires and billionaires are already smart with their spending, what do they do with their money? They invest it. Let's put it this way. It isn't just hard. It is impossible to find a multimillionaire who doesn't invest. I am not exaggerating. Why is it so important? Can't they just save the money they earn and multiply their wealth like that? In this video, we explain why saving can be your biggest enemy that will make you lose money over time. If you want to find out how is this possible, check it out after finishing today's episode. Now, back to investing. First, it is important to not confuse investing with trading. While both involve the stock market, their essence is different. Investing is basically buying an asset you expect will rise in value over the years or even decades to get long-term gains. Trading, in contrast, is about timing the market changes by buying and selling stocks for quick profits within a day, week, month, or quarter. While trading is dynamic and can give you fast return, it is also risky. According to Investopedia, over 80% of traders fail. On the other hand, investing, it's a pretty boring process because to achieve the best results, you have to invest consistently and simply wait to see your money grow over time.
Companies that are boring are wonderful to me.
Investing is a long-term process. That's why when billionaires invest in anything, whether it's real estate or the stock market, they don't react to the price changes along the way.
And never spend any time thinking about the daily stock price. I don't.
And of course, the worst thing anyone can do during the turmoil is sell their asset at a decreased price.
There are always going to be dark days in the market, but the worst thing you can do during them is sell.
Whatever millionaires invest in, they always try to leverage one crucial element, and that's compound interest. It is believed that Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world. But what makes compound interest so special? Well, its main benefit is that your investment increases in value exponentially over time. Let's see how it works in practicality. Here is an example of two different scenarios. Both people invest $1,000 at 8% annually. In the first year, both receive $80, but the second person decides to leverage compound interest and reinvest all of the dividends. And in year 10, we'll notice the difference with $1,800 versus $2,159. In the beginning, it might not seem like a big deal, but if you repeat this process again and again, you will see how your money literally multiplies. And after 30 years, the normal interest will turn the initial $1,000 into $2,400, while compounding will result in $10,063. It's almost 4 times the amount. And the most important thing is that we're not even considering any additional contributions that can be made during those 30 years. So if you invest $1,000 every year and reinvest all the dividends, you will get even higher returns. To feel all the power of compound interest, you have to start investing as early as possible, even the smallest amount. To illustrate why this is so important, let's check this graph from the Fed. Here we have one person who starts investing at 25. This person invests $5,000 yearly for 10 years and stops contributing at the age of 34. So the only thing that keeps happening after age 34 is the reinvestment of dividends. On the other hand, the second person starts at 35, invests the same $5,000 per year for 30 years, and also reinvests the dividends. As a result, at the age of 65, the first person will still have more returns compared to the second investor simply because the first investor started earlier. Probably one of the most famous advocates of compound interest is Warren Buffett. He often shares a story about his first investment.
I bought my first stock when I was 11 years old. It was the first quarter of 1942.
Back then, Warren Buffett spent $114.75 on 3 shares of City Service. Yet, in his interviews, he often says that if he had put that $114 into the S&P 500 at that time and reinvest the dividends, it will now turn into about $400,000. And this is the beauty of compound interest. You don't need a degree in economics or millions in your bank account. The most important rules are only invest the money you don't need to withdraw soon. So taking money from an emergency fund is never a good idea. Reinvest the dividends and never panic if the value of your asset goes down, no matter how appealing withdrawing your money might seem.
When you act on the emotions of the marketplace, you're making a big mistake.
It is hard to become wealthy without another essential aspect that every multimillionaire uses: diversification.
Diversification is what saves you from disaster.
So what exactly is diversification? And how can it save you from disaster? By definition, diversification is having several assets in your portfolio. Its main goal is to balance volatility and risk associated with any investment. So, for example, if one of the assets loses value because of some events, another one might be more stable or even gain in value. By owning multiple investments, you reduce the risk of losing money. But how much diversification is enough? Surprisingly, more isn't always better. There is a term called over-diversification. It occurs when investors spread their money across too many different investments that reduce returns without reducing risk that much. As a result, it can get hard to keep track of everything and make investors get into assets that they don't understand, which is never a good strategy. So what should you aim for? Even though there's no universal formula, a general rule of thumb is to have at least 3 to 5 different assets, such as real estate, precious metals like gold, silver, or platinum, bonds, stocks, or cash.
Diversification doesn't cost you anything. Diversification reduces your risk without reducing your return.
It's clear with investments, but there is another powerful trick multimillionaires use: debt as leverage. Often, debt is associated with something rather depressing. Yet, billionaires look at it differently. They will never go and buy a new company or start a new business with their own money. Why would they risk their own money if they can take a loan instead? But even if you aren't a business person, you can still apply this trick by getting a rental property. For example, you can get a mortgage and pay back with the money your tenants pay you. And if you have something left, you can save that and invest it in other assets. This way, you will also be making money with debt. Even though debt might be a great way to multiply your wealth, it can also be devastating. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, says, "Bad debt is debt that makes you poorer." But what is bad debt? The greatest example are credit card debt, unless they're used to invest in real estate where your rental income helps you pay the debt back. Car loans, unless it's an absolute necessity or a way to earn money. And any personal debt people take on. That's why the best way to treat debt is as leverage that allows you to make more money. And when it's a personal debt, avoid it and try to pay it off as soon as possible. Apart from returns and asset value increase over time, good debt gives every multimillionaire another important benefit: tax optimization. There are many absolutely legal ways to pay less taxes. What are those? First of all, when a multimillionaire or a millionaire takes on debt, they can deduct interest payment from their taxable income. Besides, they borrow money against their asset at lower rates. For example, let's take a look at Elon Musk. He owns a large stake in Tesla that was worth over $1 trillion in 2022. But he doesn't sell his shares or pay himself a salary. Instead, he borrows money from banks and uses his Tesla stocks as collateral. He can then use his money to fund his other ventures, such as SpaceX, Neuralink, or Twitter. He can also spend this money to buy more Tesla shares, increasing his ownership and influence over the company. By borrowing money instead of selling his shares, he minimizes his taxes on his capital gains and keeps his voting power intact. But of course, if Tesla goes bankrupt, Elon Musk will also go bankrupt because he wouldn't be able to repay his loans. What billionaires also do often is write off their spending as business expenses. They use the borrowed money to fund their lifestyle, ventures, or philanthropy. And they don't have to pay taxes on this because that money, it's not income, it's debt. Yet, not all billionaires find the system fair, and some even advocate for increasing taxes for wealthier Americans. One of those who often speak of inequality is Warren Buffett. In 2011, he revealed that he paid a tax rate of around 17%, while his secretary over 35%.
And she pays at twice the rate I pay. I think that's outrageous.
But you can also leverage the benefit debt gives. Even if it's just your mortgage, you can still deduct the interest you pay if your loan meets IRS mortgage requirements. None of the previous multimillionaires' advice can work without consistency. The most important part of creating wealth is choosing a strategy and sticking to it. Patience is key.
You don't have to be particularly smart, you just have to be patient.
Warren Buffett believes that the biggest thing in making money is time, at least in terms of investing. And that's what he knows well, being one of the most successful investors worldwide. Just think about it. The value of his portfolio grew from the first $114.75 invested in 1942 to $325 billion in 2023. And time does seem to matter. This is the Dow Jones Index over the last century. It grew from $1,700 to $38,000 at its peak in 2022. And here is the price of the average house sold in the US over the last 60 years. It increased from $19,000 to over $500,000. The most important thing is that this price increase for both real estate and the stock market happened despite wars, crises, pandemic, and all the other turmoil we faced during these decades. And patience is universal, and it isn't only about the stock market. It can even be about your goals. For example, if you decide to buy a house and save for a down payment, set up a plan and stick to it until you reach your goal. But what often happens to people in our consumer-oriented society is that we fall prey to impulse and emotional purchases instead of putting more money towards saving that we can then use for investing. That's why being consistent is crucial. There is another and maybe the most important feature that unites all millionaires and billionaires, and this one won't come as a surprise, and that is most of them are intelligent. But they weren't born this way. They educated themselves to understand how money works and how they can earn more and multiply what they already have. So the essential lesson we can take from wealthy people is to always invest in education. It doesn't always require you to spend money, but it for sure requires your time, dedication, and desire to know more. The issue is that schools don't teach us about monetary policy, debt leverage, tax optimization, investing, and countless other things that can help us become wealthier and manage our money smarter. That's why we have to do it ourselves. And today, it is much easier because the information is more accessible than ever before. And in case you didn't know, Novarise's mission is to make financial education simple and affordable. And if you want to educate yourself to make better financial decisions and create generational wealth, subscribe to our channel and share this video with your loved ones to help them learn important information in a simpler way. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.